This is Macbeth's Lifebox. The box is a dark color to represent Macbeth's evil actions. There is a crown on top of the box because Macbeth's ambition for royalty was the central theme of the piece. The first item in Macbeth's Lifebox is a cauldron. This represents his connection to the witches because they took advantage of his vaulting ambition and led him to misfortune. He trusted their prophecies and could not view the difference between what was foul and what was fair. He murdered Duncan in order to become king and hired assassins so the crown could not be passed to the offspring of Banquo. Macbeth was fooled again by the witches when he misunderstood the apparitions. He thought that everyone was born of a woman and that forest could not move. He realized that the witches had deceived him right before he was killed by Macduff. In Macbeth's prophecy, the third witch says, "All hail Macbeth, that shalt be king hereafter." Act 1, Scene 3, line 53, page 23. And in Banquo's prophecy, the third witch says, "Thou shalt get kings, thou shalt be none." Act 1, Scene 3, line 70, page 25. Macbeth takes their predictions seriously, resulting in the murders of innocent people and his own demise. The second item is a sleep mask that has been cut in half. It represents Macbeth's guilt after he has murdered King Duncan. Sleep usually signifies rest and relaxation, but Macbeth has permanently ruined his opportunity to sleep peacefully. He would have to suffer from these horrid memories for the rest of his life, and it becomes apparent that his actions have caused mental illness. His lack of sleep made him paranoid to the extent in which he had Banquo killed. This senseless decision caused Macbeth even more distress because he began to have hallucinations of Banquo's ghost at the dinner party. Macbeth explains to his wife, "Methought I heard a voice cry, 'Sleep no more.' Macbeth does murder sleep." Act 2, Scene 2, lines 47 to 48, page 81. This clearly demonstrates Macbeth's sense of guilt, and he knows that it will be very difficult to live with his heinous actions. The third item in Macbeth's Lifebox is a piece of medieval body armor, which symbolizes his military background and vaulting ambition. He is described as being a fearless warrior who has performed brutal executions on the battlefield. This desire for domination over the enemy is continually relevant throughout his life, and this connects to his barbaric behavior towards the king so he could gain authority. Macbeth would have worn armor for protection from injuries in battle, and this can be related to the murder of Banquo. Macbeth states, "But to be safely thus, our fears in Banquo stick deep, and in his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared." Act 3, Scene 1, lines 53 to 55, page 115. He felt inferior to Banquo and realized that Banquo's family could be a threat to the crown, so he decided to protect himself from this by hiring assassins to eliminate the concern. A soldier explained, "For brave Macbeth, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution." Act 1, Scene 2, lines 18 to 20, page 13. The gruesome description made by Macbeth's acquaintance shows that his ambition for control was vaulting. The fourth item is a container of artificial blood, and this represents Macbeth's violence and wrongdoing. Duncan's physical blood symbolizes the outcome of the murder, while the blood that Macbeth and his spouse view in their hallucinations depicts their guilt. Macbeth also views the gory face of Banquo's ghost, and his guilt will be everlasting. He realizes the seriousness of his actions and becomes concerned about the consequences that he may have to face. Macbeth loses his composure when the bloody images appear in his mind, and his mental state is never the same again. His endless guilt is clearly expressed in the statement, "Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand?" Act 2, Scene 2, lines 77 to 78, page 83. Macbeth's hands are full of blood after the murder has taken place. Water will remove the physical blood from his hands, but the blood of guilt will always remain present. The fifth item in Macbeth's life box is a bell, and this symbolizes his connection to Lady Macbeth. He is uncertain whether he should murder King Duncan, but she is confident that he should carry out the act. She manipulates Macbeth and uses criticism as a persuasion technique. Lady Macbeth questions his courage, ambition, and strength, so he will have to prove himself through this evil deed. She rings a bell to alert Macbeth that the guards have been put to sleep, and this signals him to enter Duncan's chamber. Macbeth's conscience was overruled by the controlling nature of his spouse, and she encouraged him to take this wicked action that he could never retract. After Lady Macbeth rings the bell, Macbeth says, "I go and it is done. The bell invites me, that summons thee to heaven or to hell." Act 2, Scene 1, lines 69 to 71, page 73. Macbeth is worried about facing punishment in the afterlife. She has convinced him that the murder will not be difficult, but instead it will haunt them forever. The sixth item is a plastic blade that symbolizes Macbeth's unfortunate destiny. The dagger is significant to Macbeth because it connected all aspects of his life. He began by barbarically executing people as a warrior, and then killed Duncan with the guard's dagger. Macbeth made arrangements for Banquo, Fleance, and Macduff's family to be murdered, and this would have occurred with a dagger as well. It is ironic that Macbeth organized multiple homicides that involved blades, and in the end, he was wounded by Macduff's sword during their duel. Macbeth's aggression began before his coronation, and it continued until his tragic death. He questioned, "Is this a dagger I see before me?" Act 2, Scene 1, line 40, page 71. Macbeth was so deranged that he imagined a floating blade that was leading him to King Duncan. Macduff explains, "My voice is in my sword, thou bloodier villain." Act 5, Scene 8, line 9, page 247. And Macbeth is slain by the same method in which he used to gain his position.